You start this season of the morning show in a place your character is not used to.
Yes.
What did that feel like?
Terribly uncomfortable. That is not what I've enjoyed about playing this part.
He's out of a job.
He's out of a job and out of ideas.
Yeah.
And I think probably for the first time in his foray into the entertainment business, he's just running into walls left and right. But I really like playing the character when he's on top of everything, understands everything, and can look around the room and control everything.
Yeah.
That's much more fun.
What do you like about that?
Well, I suppose when they write a character for you that he's the smartest person in the room,
Yeah.
there aren't any obstacles that will be intimidating.
Yeah.
And that's not the way that I feel in my body, in my life. It
Yeah.
feels like everything's an obstacle and intimidating.
Yes.
So it's nice to put on the guise of somebody who can really handle adult life.
Yeah.
And Cory is remarkably capable of handling very complex
Yeah.
hierarchy and work structure and complicated problems.
There's nobody.
And they give me the answers.
Yeah.
I don't have to find it myself.
Yes.
They've written it for me and I remember it. And then I say it.
Yes. I have to say, I mean, the first time I saw him, I was very uncomfortable because I've worked with a lot of.
I'm sure.
I've worked with a lot of Corys in my
In
life.
morning television, when we first started the circuit of promoting it, every time that we would walk into a morning show, you could see the
unease?
everybody would sort of part around Cory because the unpredictability of that executive was no fun. Well, it was fun for them to watch, but they certainly projected it onto me.
I don't have remember the exact words, but in essence, you said that this part was really an unexpected gift at this point in your career.
Definitely.
In what way?
Well, you know, I suppose once you get into the middle or late middle of your career, you've had a number of different experiences.
Yeah.
And I certainly at the beginning of my career had very unique experiences.
Yeah.
And much of them, I suppose, were attached to my potential as a performer.
Yeah.
And so there was a different kind of pressure on how I exploited those opportunities and whether or not people paid attention to it in the way that magazines or executives were hoping.
Yeah.
And then you actually have a career of some kind, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it takes its own shape after a while. And there was a period of my life where I feel like opportunities that I was getting weren't particularly challenging. And I was doing what nearly every actor does, is look for work and good enough work. And so to have a part that in a show that is quite complicated and asks a lot of me as an actor and is popular are things that I was not expecting at all.
Yeah.
And you know, truthfully, it came about because of the place that we're sitting in right now, in the Vineyard Theater.
You were here on stage in Harry Clark.
I was here on stage in Harry Clark, and Jennifer Aniston came and saw the show.
She was here, sitting where we are.
She was here, right here, somewhere probably, I think right over there maybe.
Yeah.
And I remember because in the show, I look out at the audience and I tell the story to the audience so I could see everybody who was there.
Yeah.
And my manager, Aline Kashishian, had invited her because she liked the show.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, that was what promoted Jen's drive to try to find the right part for me in the show. And she's really the one that championed me throughout, so I have her to thank for that.
Yeah. And it wasn't Cory that she necessarily...
When I read it, Cory was the guy that I gravitated to, because
Right.
she said, is there anybody that is interesting to you? And I said, I like the weird guy. He's got a lot to say, and I'm curious about that. Why does he think he has the right to say so much? And why is he so clear and prescient about the way that the business is going to go?
Yeah.
And that seemed like a fun kind of creative enterprise. And having just performed Harry Clark, where I play a couple of different characters.
19.
19. I felt capable of managing something complicated, because this was a very complicated.
Yeah.
And after you suffer through the indignities of forgetting your lines like 3 minutes into an hour and 20-minute show, and breaking out into a flop sweat, calling for a line. Actually, I called for a line from here, and the booth is back up there, and we didn't have any system in place for me to call for a line because I never went up like that.
Yeah.
And from back there, I hear my most amazing stage manager go, I thought, well, this is going to suck for everyone. And the hour and 20-minute show was about 45 minutes because I forgot half of it. And it was a suspense thriller, so none of the things were paying off in the end. But that builds a little bit of resilience. You know, you have to figure out new ways to compensate for your changing mind. And so ultimately it left me feeling pretty facile and in charge of what I was doing. And so I wanted a part that could utilize that, because you don't always feel so creatively inspired. You go through times where you may have big ambitions for the part, but you don't know the right way to think it, or you're not collaborating in the right way, or you can't actually just render it in the right way. You know, periods of time where you can't bring emotion to it because you're kind of shut off to something else. This is, I think, one of the benefits to getting older too, is you discover just wherever you're at and you try to apply the best of that to the character. And this was a point at which I felt very flexible, so I wanted to do something that was complicated.
What gave you the courage to take on a part with 19 different characters?
Well, my first response was no, because who would want to do that? That seems like a terrible idea. A 48-page monologue as I approach my 50s. And I've worked at the Vineyard Theater 2 other times at least. This was the place I first performed in New York, was here, I mean outside of school professionally. Where it was a kind of esoteric think piece on Japanese internment camps, written by Chiori Miyagawa. The stage, and directed by Michael Mayer, and the stage was all sand. And at a certain point, I entered totally nude, and I remember about 2 weeks into the run backstage, thinking, "What exactly am I doing with my life? This is." I was getting paid hundreds of dollars a week, you understand, and but they were such an embracing and supportive environment that I became attached to what is essentially a part of the community, a place for people to congregate, discover new ideas, and the people who are in this area in particular are very protective of this place. What Doug Abel and Sarah Stern have done to promote new voices is pretty singular. So when they sent me this script, and I thought, okay, they trust me about some aspect of it, and so I'm also kind of competitive, and I had 2 brothers growing up, and so after I had said no and then slept on it, I woke up in the middle of the night thinking, how many people get a chance to do something like this? You better get off your ass and do it. And so I said yes, begrudgingly. But the director has lots of pictures of me in rehearsal with my head in my hands, thinking, what again has gone wrong with my life?
But I mean, I mean, on some level, it has to be really flattering.
It's incredibly, yes.
To have somebody think you can pull this off.
And that's what I felt like I had to attend to, is somebody has trust in me. And David Cale, who wrote it, and Lee Silverman, who directed it, David actually, when he wrote the play, and he mostly has done solo performances himself, he revealed that it was a way for him to, he wasn't getting people to buy his songs and or see his show, so he figured he could write a show that included his songs. And so he was doing that very successfully for many years, and for whatever reason, he wrote this play. And on the cover, before anybody was attached, he wrote starring Billy Crudup, directed by Lee Silverman.
But you were saying you had anxiety attacks.
I did. I had a terrible panic attack that night. In fact, when I went up and called for line, and you get tunnel vision. You can't get any breath, and that part actually requires a lot of breath.
Because you're changing voices constantly.
You're changing very different registers. And if you are not in charge of your breathing, you won't make it through the hour and 20 minutes. He doesn't really have much of a break during it. So that's a big portion of it. So when you lose the capacity to do that, it jeopardizes a number of different features of the play.
Yeah.
But because it had happened to me in small ways before, I knew that you just kind of have to wait out the chemical dump and breathe through it, as uncomfortable it is for you and the audience.
Yeah.
And the hardest part is coming back in the next day, anticipating that it's going to happen again.
Well, I'm curious about your love of theater, because you changed schools constantly as a kid, like 9 different schools, which I imagine involves some acting in a way.
Most definitely. I think I attribute a lot of my interest in performing to that experience, because you have to intuitively pick up social skills that are, you kind of transform yourself in one way. If you go from South Florida to Texas, kids are speaking differently. They have different kinds of attitudes towards things, and if you don't figure out a way to fit in, you're not going to have much of a social circle, and finding friends is, an important part of your growth. So I think adaptability was a great virtue to that kind of upbringing, and I was also pretty clear that being a class clown was one of my ways of getting in. And when you're a class clown, there's no dignity. You have to just get rid of the idea that you possess any dignity, and just look for the joke wherever you can. Well, that's not dissimilar to being an actor. Standing off stage naked, wondering. You just have to give up the idea that this is going to be, the dignity will maybe come later at the end of your career, after you've delivered a lot of performances that require a lack of dignity. But I think the other thing, and you were asking about this before, is I think some people, in the same way that they're good with numbers, just have a brain that's capable of internalizing text. So when you read something, you remember it, especially if it's meant to be spoken. And so every time I had some kind of performance class, or was asked to do a performance as a part of a social studies class, I could just remember more of the text than other students. And I remember junior year, when I was at high school in Fort Lauderdale, we had an English class, and she asked us to memorize "To Be or Not to Be," and only a couple of stanzas, because everybody was going to explore what it meant to, use iambic pentameter as a way of understanding Shakespeare's work from a literary point of view. But I could memorize the entire thing, so I just did it in this sort of hammy way, like a show off, But it wasn't. I didn't work on it. I could just memorize it, and that immediately makes it a safer place to perform, because most people don't want to get up in front of people because they're afraid they're going to forget their lines. And what happens if they forget their lines? When you have a brain that's already organized around memorizing them, that fear goes away. That being said, that intuitive thing, or that the thing that you're born with, it does atrophy at times. And sometimes you discover it has atrophied in uncomfortable ways. But I think the combination of those, the adaptability, and part of the way that I was just wired, made performing a kind of natural, well, it was a hobby of mine, because nobody in my family was really a performer.
Your mom took you to a lot of theater.
She took us because my dad was in the textile industry, or selling yarn, in the late 60s, early 70s here. So we were living on Long Island, and he was commuting on the train, and then on the weekends, or every month or so, she would bring us to Broadway, and we would see shows. And even after we moved in 1975, I think, we moved to South Florida, and then to Texas, we would still come to New York on summers or Christmas to see shows. It was a part of our family's tradition. And I was incredibly attached to the New York theater and the plays that I would see. And I lionized those people, getting to see Fences, getting to see Brighton Beach Memoirs, and Matthew Broderick, and James Earl Jones. And
what did you see up there that made you want to do it?
I suppose the storytelling. There was a kind of a connection to humanity that and it was the people who were doing it. I knew that was something that I liked doing.
Yeah.
So to see people do it really well for a whole bunch of paying people was also captivating, you know. And so knowing that I was like a class clown performer and would lob in a grenade from time to time just to see if I could get somebody to crack up, watching somebody do it professionally with text as in such a rad way was a total eye-opener.
Yeah.
And so New York to me was a kind of Shangri-La.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about being an actor at first. I figured I should get a master's degree, and I think I was going to teach. I wanted to teach.
You wanted to teach what?
Acting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you think about it as a?
Because nobody makes a living as an actor. I mean, please, this is a terrible. I mean, if you're going to be rational about it, this is not the.
No, it's like.
You know,
it makes no sense.
It's a very difficult way to make a living. You have to be sort of drawn into it. And I think I discovered as soon as the first day of graduate school that I didn't want to be a teacher, or not that I didn't want to be a teacher, but more than being a teacher, I wanted to be an actor. I just needed to be around professional or young people who were professionally inclined. Because the way that a conservatory program goes about it is pretty regimented. You have to understand about things about your body and about the way that you move and about speech and about the way that you breathe and text analysis, and you have to have the facility to transform to different characters in a pretty rapid pace, because you're constantly doing scene work, you're constantly doing shows. So once you're in an environment with other students your age and you can see their ambition isn't about some sort of fantasy, it's about being like a soldier for the arts there. We learn this process, we learn this process. You can apply this in commercials, you can apply this in regional theater, you can apply this on screen, you know, if you have some of the fundamental, and that was the thoughtful approach that I hadn't understood before that.
But you embraced it.
Immediately. I knew that's what I wanted to do. It was the light went off. I remember seeing one of our students, Robin Weigert. She performed a monologue that was so advanced. She had written it, and her acting was so far advanced that to be around people that you could aspire to learn from, it was like seeing Fisher Stevens and James Earl Jones and people who were like in command of their instrument. And so that's when I was like, okay, I want some of that.
Before I forget, you do something. You're doing it here now, and you've done it in every interview I've read. Whenever you talk about anyone, you name them. I mean, a director, anything. Anybody who's taught you.
Is that not a normal thing?
No, sir, it is not. I actually admire it, is the reason why I brought it up.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a philosophical thing for me. If I could do this alone, I mean, this was a solo performance, quote unquote. No, I was dependent upon the company of people around me. Trust me, after I called for line before, the next night we had all sorts of lined up over here. We had our, I mean, everybody was there ready to support me doing this. So that's not a single effort. The reason I think it's such a beautiful profession is it's a collaborative art form. And the performances that I give, or when the spotlight comes to you, it feels kind of silly because Carrie Aaron wrote Cory. When she and I talked about the ways in which I thought he might speak, in the third episode, she wrote those monologues based upon our conversations. Mimi Leader was the one who was finding those shots. You know, the company of actors supporting me when I would forget them and say, I mean, the number of times Mark Duplass he would lead the charge through the war room of the news center, and I could feel it coming, and I knew Mimi wanted to do it in a oneer, and I had to come out from like a closet and give some monologue about seals or something, and I could feel it coming, and I'd get more scared and more scared. The camera would come around to me, and I'd go, Nothing, and Mark would go, no problem, Billy, back to one. Back to one, I got this. And he had just done this incredible heavy lifting. So I suppose that's one of the things that I absolutely adore about it is it is a community enterprise. And the people I think who are maybe stuck on themselves as the sole agent for their grand artistry should just go and paint. Because I think they'll discover pretty quickly they're not doing it alone.
Yeah. Well, that is a solitary endeavor.
Or go write a book.
That's right. I mean, I remember talking to Martin Cruz Smith, who wrote a lot of crime novels, Gorky Park and stuff, and he said, you're sitting in here sometimes thinking, alone at the typewriter, and thinking, oh, there's somebody behind me who'll tell me what to do, and he goes, there's nobody there.
Exactly.
It's just you.
Now, that's truly daunting.
Yeah.
You don't have to name anybody if you're one of those people.
Yeah.
I mean, behind us is like an army of people. Some of them are here right now. These are not my clothes.
So you when you start, you're like, in your mind when you start, you're aiming to be a character actor.
For sure. That was, I think, a part of the training that I learned with respect to the flexibility and the notion that you could sustain a longer, perhaps more fruitful career if you were adaptable was the thing that I think stuck. And creatively, I love leaning into what the writer has given. So it's taken me a while to try to figure out how to bring some of myself to the characters, because I always wanted to go to the character first. And when you're younger, and I wasn't so good that I could really transform into somebody else. It was more aspirational. It gives you give a kind of mediocre performance. It's okay, it works for the story, but it's not truly like in your body yet. And as you get older, you do figure out how to transform and maintain some authenticity in your voice. And you really know when it's false. And so you have a lot of different tools to apply to try to find the voice in you. But when you're younger, I wanted to try as many different characters as I could because I thought it would continue to promote that flexibility. And so it paid off for me in that one. So
we're sort of pushed into the sort of leading man spot, which you kind of resisted.
Well, it was just I didn't know how to play those guys so well. You read something, and like with Cory, for example, I read that and I go, okay, well, why does somebody think that they can talk that much in front of very powerful people without taking a breath or without? Immediately, my imagination starts going. The great heroes and stuff are most typically single-minded, which makes them, an incredible force. You don't want them to be neurotic or overly thoughtful or have too many gestures or speak with a certain kind of cadence. You want the clarity of moral purpose, and I just didn't feel like I was very good at those. It's funny to think about that period of time now, but they want you in magazines, and they want you to sweat in your role, but don't sweat, like sexy sweat, that kind of. So the number of times I got direction that was sexier was innumerable, whether it was auditions or actual things that I was doing, and I clearly didn't know how to do and resented that. But there was a single-mindedness to that I just didn't really feel interested in, and I think I was aware that whatever looks I possessed, that people were happy about them, was going to fade at a certain point, and so I better get ready for a short career or surgery, one way or the
other. It's funny. I did a story with Peter Frampton, who I know you worked with on Almost Famous.
I love that man.
And we were actually standing in front of his huge platinum, 16 times platinum plaque for, Frampton Comes Alive. And he said, I feel like that was done by some other guy.
Isn't that amazing?
And I said, Peter, but that's your name on there. He goes, I know. But he said, I think what I realized is that a pop star's career can last a couple of years, and a musician's career lasts a lifetime.
See? This guy. Hey, I probably learned it from Peter then, frankly.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't know what it felt like for you as an actor in it, but...
Well, I'll tell you, it felt difficult because I didn't play guitar.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've learned an instrument when you're in your 30s. It
No age.
sucks. Your brain, doing this to this and this. And not only that, I was supposed to be a prodigal talent. So I was well aware that this was not going to work for some group of the audience.
Yeah.
That being said, I was rather relentless on myself, trying to find a way to manufacture one moment that might sell a portion of that story. And it was not easy. And they were all musicians, everybody in the band and Peter and stuff. So people were constantly playing around, and I always wanted to. I mean, the best part is when you're starting out, you just bang it goes like what, like that, and then up, and so the strings are constantly breaking.
Yeah.
And who was there to save my ass every time? Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
I had parked his car when I was a valet in high school, and that was my claim to fame at the 15th Street Fisheries in Fort Lauderdale. And then 15 years later or whatever, he's changing my guitar strings because I'm such a clod at playing. So that was a wonderful kind of experience. But that was why it was difficult too.
Yeah.
And also that character, he was troubled by the band's success.
Yes.
So he didn't know how to. So I didn't have as much fun as I should have.
Yeah.
Which maybe is important to remember, because I actually do have a lot of fun on the morning show because it is such a gift. So maybe that's something I've learned.
Yeah. Are you one of those people who goes back and looks at your films? Or is it
Not so much. I just make my son watch them.
Yeah.
You know.
What does he think of
No,
them?
he doesn't watch them. Ford silly. Though he did come and see a screening of Jay Kelly with me. If something is on, I'm switching through.
Yeah.
I'll go, oh, and then at a certain point, you go, okay, I'm good. I don't need to look at that scrapbook anymore. I really wish I had been more attentive to this feature of the character. That's a false moment. That didn't work at all.
Yeah.
That was a bad choice you made there, telling the person not to fix your hair.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things come up for me. I'll record things on the computer if I'm trying to figure out a feature of a character, and watch it back to see if there's any kind of authenticity behind it, or if it just it looks as false as it feels.
Yeah.
And that's actually taught me quite a bit.
Has it?
That was totally anathema to the way that I started out acting. The general thought was, if you look at yourself, you're going to get lost in it, and you're not going to be able to discern what's good or bad. You'll just get so self-conscious about all of it that you won't have the ability to be present with the other person.
Yeah.
And I guess experience has allowed me to sort of do both, which is great. It's a very good tool now.
There is this little smile that Cory wears frequently in the morning show, which is, I take as this sort of creepy confidence.
I was just going to say confidence, but okay.
But there's something sometimes a little sinister about it. And I don't know and I'm like, does he know he's doing this?
I think, he doesn't know. I think he's delighted by his own mind.
Yeah.
I had this one friend, or I still have this great friend, who's one of the smartest people I've ever known.
Yeah.
But is like a deadhead too, kind of, like went to Wharton and also Burning Man.
Yeah.
And when he starts to put together an idea where he sees the link between two different things, he starts to chuckle.
Yeah.
And he's just delighted that he's been able to see something about that. And so I used a bit of that with Cory, because that's a very disarming thing in a power structure.
Yeah.
So if you've got somebody who's like, I know what your job is.
Mm-hmm.
I can see you're a little bit nervous now that I know what your job is.
Yeah.
That's a very powerful position to be, particularly like in a corporate power structure.
Yeah.
And so his predictive ability has had nothing but success until this season.
Yeah.
So he's got no reason to think that his way of thinking should be questioned.
Yeah.
So it's kind of delightful for him to be in super high stress situations
where
he's probably the only one who can remain calm and clear enough to come up with a viable solution, or at the very least, pivot affably to something else.
Yeah.
He doesn't like watching people suffer. He doesn't like watching, he's not sadistic in that way, but he likes the opportunity for solutions.
Yeah.
And when he can start to see the problems unfold before him in maybe a way that he predicted, he feels very giddy about it.
Do you have a theory on why people have been so attracted to that character?
I mean, if I did, I think I would have done really well early in my career. I just don't have any. I think, you know, there is heightened drama all around.
Yes.
And people are consumed with their own way of managing these major situations.
Yes.
Whether they're the news correspondents or whether they're the people in the cutthroat industry.
Yeah.
And Cory is somebody who's not attached to that emotionally, can be kind of a conduit for the audience, I think, to ease the relentless drama of people's lives, the news stories that they're covering. And so maybe it's just like everybody needs a little bit of a breather from the heightened tension so they can go back to the tension.
Yeah.
And Cory provides some of it, I don't know. Or maybe it's his hair. Did we ever think about that?
That could be.
Could be.
You, there's a story you've told a bunch of times of standing on 57th Street and 7th Avenue. I think I was talking to your agent on the phone, and I love that image because it's right down the street from where we work. But you, in the beginning, didn't want long-term parts.
No, I didn't. I didn't understand how to work on and accept a part that hadn't been written yet. So so you have to understand the one feature of doing TV deals. I don't know exactly what they're like now for people who are starting out, but in the 90s, the networks, if you were going to screen test for a part, you had to sign a contract, which typically was 7 years. So to make a decision to do this one part in a show that you're not really sure about, in a part that you're not really sure about, having only read maybe 2 or 3 scenes, and commit to it for 7 years, just seemed unreasonable. I had just spent 3 years and was 80 grand in debt from learning how to be a character actor, and to try to immediately take a job. Listen, financial security is for sure an important thing, but I had a visa spot very early on camera. That made me a little bit of scratch. It bought me a couple of months, and I was holding on to that for dear life. You know, it was really month by month. What can I make this month to make sure I'm making the? In fact, I got the MasterCard spot afterwards, just by I did it for the session fee.
But you ended up doing that for 13 years.
I did, yeah. But that's if I can make $500 here, if I can make $200 there, if I made $1,500 somewhere, that would set me up for a month and a half or something.
Sure. I mean, that's incredibly consistent work for an actor.
Oh, that was such an incredible gift. That whole experience working on that campaign, because it did give me some level of control over the kind of things that I wanted to do. And I had very ambitious friends here, that I looked up to. And they were doing ambitious things, and I wanted to be a part of that team. And the only way to do that is to do risky things that maybe didn't have commercial appeal. But that's one of the things that New York, I think, is really great at, is breeding some kind of creative ambition. And when you're around those kinds of people, it's hard not to want to be a part of that tribe. And so it was going to be harder for me to do that if I was doing a space show playing the assistant captain or whatever for 7 years. It's just not going to lead to the kind of daring theatrical work that my friends were doing.
Is that what it was, a space show?
It was. I think it was called Earth 2, but I could be wrong. Which I'm sure was a great show.
Yeah.
And I'm sure whoever got the part did a phenomenal job. I don't know that person's name.
It just wasn't going to be you.
It just was not going to be me. And you know, luckily I had the support.
Yeah.
That's because often if you're a young actor, you probably don't have an agent or who's going to support that kind of choice. But luckily I did.
Yeah.
Philip Carlson, Karen Friedman.
Yeah. This is only your second TV series, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And something really big happened on your first.
Yes, indeed. That was Gypsy.
Yes.
I think it was for Netflix, but I'm not sure.
Oh my God. I love how you remember everybody's names, but you can't remember who you did the show for.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you. That is where my wife and I got together.
Was that an immediate thing, chemistry-wise?
No. We've known each other a long time because she's been in New York as well.
Yeah.
And one of my close friends was Justin Theroux,
Yes.
and they were in Mulholland Drive together.
Yeah.
So we'd met each other, you know, years before and been at functions together.
Yeah.
It was just a lucky opportunity. And I feel we both got pretty lucky there. I think she got more lucky, for sure. There's nobody out there who believes that.